I get asked a lot, how do you have sex in prison? And I've talked about sex a lot so far this season. In fact, it's all I've talked about. And now I'm going to tell you some of the ways that you can get away with having sex, not in jail, in federal prison. But before I do that, if you could hear me out, um, like, share, follow, do all of the things for me, please. I haven't been asking this, and that's my error. I kind of just thought people would, and apparently you got to ask. So this is me asking, and I'm going to tell you why. I start law school in a few weeks. I'm recovering still from a drunk driving wreck, can't call it an accident, where a drunk driver hit me, blindsided me at 45 miles per hour. I was going 3, he was going 45. And it's caused me to lose my house. I've had to put it up for sale. I've only recently even begun to answer the question of work. And, I've been producing this show for 3 seasons on 0 budget. And that leads me to the next thing. A lot of you have been asking me to write a memoir. And hey, I wrote it. It's done. It's ready to be shopped around. I'm querying it to agents, every day. And as part of that, I started a Substack where those of you who are interested, if you listen to this video all the way through to the end, you'll get a coupon to have 1 month free on the Substack where you can listen initially to the first audiobook chapter of my memoir, which is a story I've never told on any season of Pravity. So wait till the end, get that code. And if you could, do all the likey, sharey, savey, followy stuff that TikTok rewards so I can keep telling you stuff about prison sex. So the story I'm going to tell you today is how you get away with having sex in federal prison. And I'm going to give you some caveats that I've given you before. There is no such thing as consensual sex in prison. And they use that against the inmates far more than they use it against the guards. It's not intended to catch guards raping inmates, which happens, or guards having consensual sex with inmates. It's geared to use as a punishment tool against inmates having sex so that the prison staff can control everything. You can argue about it all you want, whether it's a good thing or a bad thing, whether it's justified, whether it's necessary. It's the truth. So how do you get away with it? This is the methods that I used to get away with it. And right now we're going to center this conversation entirely on low security federal institutions, which is where I was at Beaumont. I was at the FCI Beaumont Low. Now, at Beaumont, in the Low, every dorm has about 144 men in it, and the walls of your cube are about this high, okay? Sometimes as low as this. And you can use that to your advantage. You can give a lot of head behind that wall. People can just be standing in your cube, and because the wall comes up to their shoulders, you can be down on your knees and nobody would know. And because it's loud, no one would really hear you, yet you can hear footsteps coming. Plus, the person you've got a mouthful of peen, you've got a mouthful of their peen, has eyes. They can see people coming. So it would so often be the case, I'm gonna pretend to be the guy, where I'm on my knees giving pleasure to a straight man who's looking around like this. Like nothing's going on, even as he's blowing a load down the back of my throat. Yay, prison. The next method is bathroom stalls, because almost all the bathroom stalls in federal prison, as opposed to jail, have dividers between the stalls. So what you do is you go to the stall that's the closest to a wall, where there's just nowhere else for anyone to go. And you sit on the toilet with your feet positioned between the toilet and the wall, and your body turned towards the wall, and your head turned towards the man who you're giving pleasure to. That way, anybody looking under the stalls to see if there's a 2 set of feet will only see one, unless they're standing directly in front of your stall. And then, bitch, they trying to get them some, unless it's a guard, which they might be trying to get them some too. So the next one is after lights out, but nowhere near count time. You can take a blanket and if you're in one of the cubes that has a bunk bed, because the way that they do the system when I was there is all the cubes on the wall, along the walls of the dorm, had 2 bunks, both of them low on the floor. The ones in the middle had 2 bunks as well, but one of the bunks was an actual bunk bed. So there were 3 men in those cells. Cubes, I shouldn't call them cells. Now, in those, sometimes you'd end up with only 2 men because there wouldn't be anybody occupying the bunk, or you'd get lucky like I did, and the guy would be like super old and super handicapped. And so once he was asleep, he was gone. So then you could take a sheet, but usually a bedspread, a blanket, and you tuck it under the mattress of the top bunk so that it hangs over the lower bunk. And then you do it on the other side because there's only 2 sides of the 4 sides exposed. And then you either pull the person into your bunk and y'all do the poom poom, or if you want to be super slick about it, you cut a hole in the blanket and one person stays behind the blanket and the other person stays standing up with their arms on the bunk bed. And that way they can see if anybody's coming around to look. Foolproof methods, people, foolproof methods. The other way is to go into the showers, because at Beaumont, the showers were relatively private. And as opposed to other places I went where the shower dividers didn't come all the way to the ground and they only came up about this high, these shower dividers were like tiled walls. So it was like 12 tiled little encampments with a fabric shower curtain covering the only open end of it. So that made it really easy at night to go to the very far shower end, drop your pants, pull the shower curtain, and just stand there showing whole, waiting for the right guy to come in and pound you down. Or, more than you would think, the opposite. I don't know why straight men have this fear of having their buttholes pounded out, but they love it once they love it. I'm telling you, they do. So, the final way that I found, and it's kind of like an agglomerated way, it's all over the place, is facilities, the rec yard, education, the library. Go to places like that, the chapel, and you find the right time when there's not going to be a lot of people there, or you find the right space, which happens sometimes. Particularly on the rec yard, it can be difficult because those places are usually heavily monitored. But like in education and the library, ain't nobody monitoring that shit. They got 1 inmate that works there, and whatever deputy works there can't be bothered, usually, unless it's Miss Watson. I think she's like a warden now, but fuck that bitch. So she made my grandmother take the underwire out of her bra to come visit. I mean, come on. Anyway, Miss Watson, with your ridiculous ass. So anyway, you could find places in the yard, like when they would have a bathroom in the yard, you could use that. I never did that, but you could. The way that I would do it on the yard is you'd go to like the farthest out place on the yard you possibly could, and you would just lay there on the ground, and one inmate would roll over on his side, and the other inmate could be laying laterally in front of him, giving him head, and you wouldn't really be able to see it unless you were on the other side of the fence. And since both of you have eyes and both of you can see in this regard, it wasn't that difficult to keep from getting caught. Needless to say, I never got caught at Beaumont. Never! At least not by a guard. And again, I hope you all have enjoyed that story. Here it is. Here's your coupon code for 1 month free of the Pravity Substack. And please forgive the angles and weirdness of this. My phone broke and Google is refusing to replace it right now, even though it's under warranty. So I'm having to struggle with that fight. And I can't see myself filming, which is really difficult for me, but I'm getting used to it. And if you can, like, save, love, do all that. Thank you all. I love you. Bye.